Stephanie, and we are here with two very famous writers, Aristotle and Sophocles. They are here to teach all mortals how to cook the perfect chocolate cake. So the cake that we'll be making today is a fluffy sponge chocolate with a...
So you've heard about my play, Oedipus the King?
Yes, I have. The gods were making a big deal about it, so I decided to read it.
I'm honored.
You should be.
Moving on, people. We have only half an hour in this segment, you know.
The topic we will be discussing while making the cake is Oedipus the King, written by Sophocles. It is what I would describe a tragedy according to my standards, and I would know because I set the guidelines. For example, the play itself is very serious and not at all comical.
Why, yes. My play revolves around Oedipus, a king searching for the killer of the previous king, and at the same time, a man running from his fate. It leans more on the realistic basis rather than on the basis of fantasy.
Plus, unlike an epic poem such as Paradise Lost.
No, not Paradise Lost again. I've heard this Milton's epic over and over. He's not even Greek.
As I was saying, Oedipus the King is not lengthy. The plot of Oedipus the King is short and appropriately revolves around one main storyline. It does not branch off into several storylines, and there is not one aspect that is loosely tied in the end.
It is because the audience eventually finds out who the killer of the previous king is. And I don't want to brag, but I did succeed in evoking so much catharsis, even I wanted to cry sometimes.
Eventually, the audience finds out that the person was Oedipus himself, who mistakenly killed his own father and wedded his own mother. By having children with his mother, he had sown the loins of his father, mother, and himself. This fate was told to him by the oracle years before, and had been what caused him to run away.
Let's talk about the hero. I've spent so long trying to form the perfect Oedipus.
It's fine, go ahead.
Alright, the hero of Oedipus the King is Oedipus himself, who gives the audience a sense of misery and pity. You can sympathize for him when he has come to discover that the fate he tried to flee when he was younger has only come true, which is a use of peripeteia and anagnorisis. See, I read your famous poetics. He cursed himself twice as king and murderer, and to him and the people of Thebes it is a shocking discovery that their king is the root of all their domestic problems. After he finds out, his wife, whom he dearly loved, kills herself. Then he goes around and blinds himself, because he figures, what use is there for him to see if all there is for him to see is misery?
Not to mention that on top of cursing himself, he must fulfill his kingly orders and banish himself. He leaves his daughters to Creon and is pulled away while having his last moments with them. If I had been alive during your time, I would have come up with the exact same storyline. You know what they say, Greek minds think alike.
Don't flatter yourself, Aristotle.
I liked how you were able to manipulate the audience. For instance, we started seeing Oedipus as a wise leader, and then there was a sudden shift in his personality, making him arrogant.
With a blind prophet.
Although we dislike his arrogance toward the blind sage, we could relate to his reactions, because if someone were to come up to me and say that, I'd say, you don't know me. But let's not forget his other qualities. He's very respectful towards his wife or his mother.
I'd like to think he was the first mama's boy.
Hopefully not all mama's boys end up like Oedipus. And of course, may I add, the grammar. If you compare the hoi polloi against the court, you could hear a difference of status, particularly in the field of education.
Do you remember when I made two riddles that Oedipus had to solve in order to get to the truth?
I remember the blind prophets and that Oedipus felt as if though he was being mocked.
Which was the other one?
I don't recall the second riddle.
Of course you don't, because Oedipus didn't acknowledge the simple riddle stated by the shepherd. Oedipus didn't acknowledge that he was being challenged intellectually by this low-class man.
So, how's the baking going? What have we got so far?
I'm cracking some eggs.
Okay,
I took out the squiggly spoon.
that's a whisk.
We're almost finished. Just give us a few. What did you think of the way I incorporated song into my play?
The chorus was meant to offer praise to the gods, correct?
Exactly. I honored the gods such as Apollo, Dionysus, Zeus, and Athena. I also used the chorus to update the audience on most matters.
The chorus gave life to the stage of actors. You couldn't see the domestic problems going on in Thebes, but they gave the audience insight.
Jocasta's death was my favorite.
It was just a spectacle according to my standards. Her death was not important enough to be staged, but Oedipus and the messenger gave it importance. Her death was announced by Lord Classy.
But you have to feel bad for her and her husband, child. It was another misery that led to Oedipus's enragement.
I didn't really sympathize with Jocasta because she was self-centered. She didn't stop to think about how greatly her death would affect Oedipus or her grandchildren.
Yeah, I don't really know what to call it. Wait, that's not the point. True, she did become a spectacle, but that's why my tragedy is the best.
So Socrates and Earth.
Well, so much for teaching our dead viewers how to make delicious, fluffy, spongy chocolate to watch them breathe. This is what happens when we host a show with two philosophical mortals. That's all for today, folks. And remember, reading is so playful souls and really kids. If you don't behave accordingly, see you next time when we learn how to make British tea and cucumber sandwiches with Oscar Wilde and Shakespeare. Hopefully these guys don't know each other.